What's up, mountain movers? Welcome back to the 1720 podcast. You guys will remember from last week when we talked through Kevin's book and the writing of that it is available now. So if you don't have your copy, go grab one. But as I was looking through mine this week and reading through the front, there are quotes, reviews is probably a better word, from lots of our podcast guests on there, including Matt Fisher, Melanie Rainey, Jake Thompson, Sam Russo, and April Shprintz. And so oftentimes you guys have noted that on the podcast we are reinventing things. Sometimes we're redoing things. And in the last, 6 to 8 months, oftentimes we find ourselves revisiting things. And that's what we're doing this week, is revisiting an old episode 44 from back in June of 2021, almost 2 years old now, when we had April on the show. Title of that episode was Focus on the What, Not the How. We talked through with April about her book, Magic Blue Rocks, The Secret to Doing Anything. Picked up a ton of nuggets along the way there. And this episode sits in the middle of that second season without the listens that it deserves. And so just as we did with Sarah Noose's episode maybe a few months back, we're going to do that again here with April. Let you guys, if you missed it or you're new to the podcast, we're going to put it front and center here to make sure that this episode gets all the listens that it deserves. Before we send you over there, just a preview, as we have a tendency to do, of what's coming up in the next few weeks. Kevin and I have a few duos or one-on-one topics that we're going to be talking through, including this idea I've been working on, and Matt Fisher and his team got the benefit of hearing me ramble on about it, about my big 12 things. So I've been working on this, going to try to share those with you guys. And then, of course, as usual, great guests lined up, headed your way in the coming weeks. So without further ado, we will take you back to June the 14th, 2021, episode 44, April Shprintz, Focus on the What, Not the How. And until next week, you guys stay out there and keep moving mountains.
What's up, mountain movers? Welcome back to the 1720 podcast. Just want to start by saying we're humbled and surprised and just excited for the 1720 challenge. We had a great outpour of support, and through the Nike Run app, we're seeing a bunch of people participate, and it's awesome to see those miles racking up. So this is going to probably air in the middle of June, and we hope you've been sticking with it, and we're just proud of you and excited for July 14th when we get together and just celebrate the victory and celebrate Prison Fellowship, and just super proud of our mountain movers. So keep it up.
Yeah, it's been fun. I feel like I was ahead for this. We're only like 3 days in when we're recording right now, 2 days in. I feel like I was ahead, and I checked this morning. I'm not ahead.
Thomas Crowther is getting after it.
Rushing. I texted him last night. I was like, bro, he sent, I should figure out how to post it. He sent a funny dancing cat emoji. And I was like, that's awesome and hilarious. He's dominating it. So anywho, yeah, thanks for joining us. And that's been a fun little challenge for us. So looking forward to seeing how it ends.
Yeah, so our guest today, we were supposed to record about 3 weeks ago, and we jumped on a virtual call, and we never hit record, and I now understand why accelerator is in her title, because she knows how to accelerate a relationship. I felt like we were good friends after one phone call, and we did it again in the studio, where we just started talking with each other and not hitting record for like 45 minutes. So she just has that special gift, and we're super excited to share her gifts with y'all, and we have April Shprintz join us. So thank you so much, April, for joining us.
Hey, everybody. I'm excited to be here. This has been fun.
Yeah, so when we were doing the virtual thing, we're like, wait, you're going to be in town? Let's just record in the studio. Because as we discussed, audio is better, interpersonal is better, reading the room is better. So thanks for being here, IRL.
Ooh, look at you
I
with
know.
all. Yeah, I can tell you live with a teenager.
Super cool. I got all the acronyms.
Dang.
Ian was telling me yesterday that I've lost my cool. I keep saying dope, and he's like, you can't say dope anymore. And he told me like 2 new things to say. I was like, I'm
no cap.
No,
you got no cap.
cap. Hayes keeps saying no cap.
That means no
Do you
lie.
know what that means? Well, you just
No.
told you. It means no lie. Like you got to be honest. No cap.
Okay, so no cap. You've got to own your own generation and not be like trying to pose like you can talk like they do.
Do you remember?
It's just weird.
We'll do an intro in a minute, I guess, because we're insta ditch. But do you remember? Do you remember the word crunk? Do you remember the word crunk?
Yes.
Do you remember the word crunk?
I do.
Yeah, I said it to an 11-year-old the other day, and he looks at me like I lost my mind, and he goes, "Crunk, population 1."
Okay, let's just be clear here. who can like ice you out like a teenager? Nobody. Like, hello, you are irrelevant.
Yes.
Just, and it's amazing. I'm like, did I used to do that? I think I was afraid of adults. I don't think I ever did that.
Yeah.
Maybe I did. I don't
Maybe
know.
we give children too much power these days. We need to put them in their spot.
It's participation trophies. I feel like that's where it comes from.
That's it.
Well, we completely just insta-squirreled that. But April, thanks for joining us. Here's how we get started usually is what's your elevator pitch? So you hop in an elevator with a stranger, got to ride up. Who's April?
So here's what's interesting. I don't believe in pitches, and I'll tell you why. Because I think pitch is something you do to someone, right? And that's not fun. It's about them. So if I was in the elevator, I would ask them about them. Who are you? What's important to you? How can I help?
Well, games chopper.
Yeah. Hey, that's a first.
Yeah, that is a first. Usually we've got a lot of different answers to that question over 40-something plus episodes about how people identify with what words they use to identify who they are and stuff. And that says a lot about you, right? Like that says a lot about what you're about, is that it's not about you, right? So that's awesome. But you have to tell us, who is April?
So April is someone who lives to help others. My whole life is based on it. And I live to help people uncover their genius and help companies really build upon that principle of the generosity culture. And by pouring into their people and their clients and their employees, they can make an amazing company. They can, and also their community, they can just make this amazing experience that makes work feel like play and play feel like work.
I was on a call, it was earlier this week, I think. And I said that out loud. It was a Zoom call, right? So you can see everybody. I said that out loud or something similar to that. Like work can be awesome. I think work can be awesome and people can wake up every day and be super excited to be here with these people who are here.
Yes.
And about, I don't know, there's 10, 12 people in there. And I'm trying to survey them all. And about half of them were like, brr. And I was like, well, work to do. Like I got to convince that person that that's achievable. So I'm looking forward to unpacking that a little bit over the course of the day here. So
I love it.
go ahead, Kevin.
Well, getting to know April these past couple months, that comment on the elevator pitch, that's genuine.
Yeah.
Like part of our virtual phone call was you introducing us to our last two guests before you that have came on that you work with Sarah and Megan. And what I think a lot of people fail to understand is like, that is both awesome and selfish when you're able to do that. Like I love being able to help people and connect dots because I get the value out of creating that value.
Absolutely.
So like once you're bought in on that, and I don't mean like the cheesy way, like, and some people need to kind of fake it and be like, oh man, I need to try this out. But you understand the fulfillment you get out of it when you start connecting good people with other good people. Yes. And then you watch those two flourish with no skin in the game. It's so awesome. It's like a goosebump moment, just like thinking about all the times that we've been able to connect dots and trying to use this platform to help people, help people with our message, but also in between messages, connect people together, good people with good people.
I love it. And it is the best feeling in the world, right? And I think that is something that some folks maybe just haven't experienced or they aren't aware of. That yes, being a generous person who pours into others and helps others and gives others, man, you can't help but be successful. Success just comes at you like crazy. But it's a byproduct. It's not what you're going for. It's not even the early result. It just ends up happening. And what you're talking about, Kevin, is that immediate feeling that you have. Like there's nothing cooler than realizing that you helped empower someone,
right.
That you helped them realize that they are amazing.
Yeah. I've had a couple of tiny little experiences around that, but I feel exactly that emotion is like, I helped them. Like I did it. I did it not for me. I did it for you. Like, look how cool that is. Look what you're doing. And I got to be a small part of your success. And that's super fun to me.
Yeah. Well, and then if you think about it, if you think about that you share in all of those different people's success, then your ability to have success is unlimited because you get to feel yours, but you get that feeling of everyone else's and it's exponential and it's amazing.
Love that.
Or exponential. Either way you want to say it.
Right. You could use whichever word you think is appropriate there.
Right.
Insert word there.
Yeah. Or letters that don't belong.
That's okay. We'll just edit it out and so it'll be like, it is exponential.
No, we should totally leave it. Let's make it real.
Yeah,
People need to know.
I don't edit much out. We just pretty much roll this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a story I want to hear that I don't know. It's how did you guys meet? Because Kevin So you're talking about April, and then I know we read the book, and then all of a sudden we're together. But what's y'all's story? How'd y'all meet?
It was the balloon in the hallway post.
Yes. Oh, see, I love this. So and this is so funny. I talk to a lot of people about mindset and alignment and getting aligned with success. And what is so funny is I saw this balloon post, and everyone's seen it. It's a parable. It's not new. And someone I knew posted it. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. It's a random Saturday, right? And I just posted on LinkedIn. Love this. And it's a story of a professor that is helping students in a school do an exercise where they write their name on their balloon. And then there's tons and tons of balloons. And if you're trying to find your own balloon, it takes forever and you can't. But if you're helping other people find their balloon, everyone finds their balloons really quickly. And he's like, hey, happiness works the same way. And I was like, oh, this is beautiful. So I just post it. That thing has 5 million views.
Your post?
Yes.
Gravy, yeah.
And
Holy
I don't own it. I kept telling people, I don't own this, because they're like, this is brilliant, April. I'm like, it's not mine. Some people had seen it before, and this is what I mean, where something really resonates with you and you share it. I've got to get away from this microphone.
You're good.
You share it to help others and be like, this is amazing. This is true. This is how you really find happiness. And then it just went nuts. And Kevin was one of the folks that shared it. And I think a lot of people commented on yours, and then you put it in one of your motivational Monday things, and you told me about it. And then he told me about Quinn and this amazing moment she has every Saturday with her donuts. And it was such a great mindset piece. I made her the subject of one of my mindset minutes in my Pouring Into Your Business podcast, because I was like, this is how you need to live. This is why 3-year-olds are so happy and they get what they want because they enjoy moments the way that we all should. So, and then it just went from there.
Yeah. So I knew the Quinn I didn't know the backstory, how the Quinn Connect happened though.
Yeah. Yeah. So and you don't even have those counts on whoever shared it from my daily motivation email, because that goes out to a nationwide list of people.
Right.
And then who knows, that's the cool thing about exponential impact on trying to make an exponential impact is you share it with one person, that person blows it up, and then you just see it through the LinkedIn post, 5,000 views. That is insane.
5 million.
Oh, 5 million.
5 million.
That's
commas, bro.
And like somewhere like 15,000 comments. And what was so funny is I'd never had a post go viral like that.
Yeah.
And I just took it as a personal commitment to answer everyone. And you can't do that. At some point, you have got to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was 5,000 comments. I don't know, but it was so many. And I did it for weeks because I loved how it was just like moving through, especially for the people who had never seen it.
Yeah.
Because it really did resonate with so many people the same way it did me.
Well, and we talked about it with Bob Berg about a month ago. I think he joined us a few weeks ago, and he told me that he shared it on his small group, like your podcast.
Quinn's, yes. And hers is my most downloaded podcast. Interestingly enough.
That's fun.
That's a recording for like a legacy moment for someday when she's older and she can understand what's going on. Like, hey, you're famous. We're going to set up your IMDb profile now.
I love it. I love it.
Quinn's story has more listens and likes than anything we've ever done.
And deservingly so. She's super cute.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to navigate us through here, but you've written a book. I understand.
I have.
Yeah, that's a super generic intro to writing a book. Tell us about your book.
So it's called Magic Blue Rocks, The Secret to Doing Anything. And interestingly enough, Bob, it has a lot to do with why I wrote that book, which is so weird. So, and again, this is just like the cool connections of people.
Yeah.
So Bob has a friend that he's had for years and years since they were literally going and working with and learning from Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn, like back in the day, right? And Carey is a boxing promoter. His name's Carey Daigle. And he is pretty much every big thing you see on Fox Sports or Showtime or any of those HBO, whatever, that's him. He's doing those, right? And I met him and met him virtually and had posted a video of me going back home to this little tiny house that I grew up in and saying, hey, this is the house. This is where I created these magic blue rocks. And this was before the book. I was just like, this was my first business. I colored these rocks and took them to school. But people seeing where I had gotten to, but seeing where I started, that was actually the first video that went viral, but it didn't go as viral as that other post because people were like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing this. I'm embarrassed to say where I came from. Right. And so it just touched so many people. And Carey was like, April, you need to write a book. Mm-hmm. You need to share this with people. And so he said this to me in August of 2020. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. And I sat down and I wrote 6 stories from my life. But more important than the stories and what I did well, or a lot of what I didn't do well, was the lessons that I got from them and that overarching understanding that the only difference between me and anyone else was that I believed that I could have tremendous success. So if I could share that with you, if I could teach you how to have that kind of belief in yourself, there's nothing you can't do. So I wanted to share that with the world.
So I think Megan may have said it, and I share the sentiment about how I love the beginning of a story. Didn't she say something like that?
Yeah, it's why this is so cool to do. Like you look at somebody successful like April, and then there's a backstory there with plenty of adversity, and you power through that. And it's very important for people to know that because, like Megan said, you're no different than anybody else. You just have to believe in yourself. You have to surround yourself with good people, and you just have to charge forward. She gave you credit for the how can come later or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Don't get messed up. It's the what. Focus on the what, not the how. Because some of the biggest life goals I had, I made when I was 6 years old. So I wasn't even smart enough to come up with a how, right? I was going to go to college. I was going to be a television news anchor. I was surrounded by people who said, our people don't graduate high school, right? And I was like, I don't care. That's what I'm doing. And by not focusing on the how, you don't get discouraged. Because think about how often you want to do some really big, great thing, right? And as soon as you start focusing on the how, you start getting discouraged. It stops seeming as fun. It stops seeming as possible. Well, I say stop thinking about it right then. You focus on the what, ignore the how, because the how will take care of itself. Opportunities will come in front of you. Ideas will pop in your mind. You don't have to figure it all out the first day or even the first year. Just focus on the what.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that with Megan, about why that's a challenge and why people struggle with the how and how people get bogged down and your dreams get like dissolved into the minutia and stuff like that. So,
or you give up on them. You convince yourself you can't because there's one step you don't understand. Well, there's someone who understands it. Go find them.
Yeah. And you don't understand. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, when I reflect back on my childhood and what I was good at, I didn't understand what or where it would get me. I just did that. It was part of my DNA.
Yeah, and it was fun.
And so, like, your dream big, no matter what. Like at that moment, did you have the foresight of like where that could take you, or is just that's how I'm built. That's my DNA. That's how I'm going to be.
So some of that is definitely DNA, and some of it was, I just don't believe you when you say that doesn't make sense. And I will tell you, I still have this belief today. I do not think that there is a single thing that occurs to any of us that isn't possible for us. Whatever you think of that you want to do, it is possible. You can figure out the how later, but it is possible. And I think part of that can be demonstrated by thinking about the things you never think about that you would want to do. It has never occurred to me ever to be an astronaut. Never. Like it's not even in there. Right? And it's probably not possible for me. I don't care because it's not interesting to me. But everything that's ever occurred to me, I know is possible or it wouldn't occur to me.
That's an interesting philosophy, right? Because the idea is that your brain is wired to, I'm kind of theorizing on top of what you're saying, but your brain is wired to dismiss the things that you're not capable of and focus on things, the ideas that pop into your head, the things that you think about, the things that you dream about are things that are possible.
Because
right?
everything is possible.
I mean, would you mind sharing the actual Magic Blue Rocks story or
No,
like
not
like a summary of it?
Sure.
Like since it's the title of the book, and I think it could shed some light on, despite the circumstances, you dream big And
Right?
you achieved some stuff that we'll get into later in the episode.
Sure. No. So this is set in my first grade class, and there was a young man who was with me. We were really just the smartest kids. That's what I was convinced of, because we got to do a special project during recess. His name is Brad, and we're waiting for the teacher, and he tells me that my pants are too short. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's spring, and so we'll cut these off into shorts. And he's like, yeah, but you need new pants because those are too long. And I was like, yeah, I get those when school starts. Like, you don't buy pants in the spring. Like, that doesn't happen. I'm like trying to explain shopping. He's a boy.
Yeah.
I get it. He doesn't understand.
Relax, Rockefeller.
And he's like, oh, you're poor. And I was like, poor? No, I am absolutely. I'm not poor. And this kid who was so bright, so old soul, just takes me through this list of questions. Because he has one of those minds that processes things very logically. And there's actually no judgment in his "you're poor." It is the explanation for why you can't have clothes that fit. And he takes me through and he asks me these questions, and my stomach falls because I realize as he's asking me these questions, oh my God, I am poor. And I just have this visceral reaction of shame, and I want to cry, but I'm like, oh my God, crying about being poor is worse than being poor. Like, I've got to fix this. I have got to fix this. And in this moment, I'm like, well, obviously my mother can't handle this or we wouldn't be poor. So this is up to me. So I go home and I'm like, okay, what do the rich people on TV do? They have businesses. I modeled this, by the way, on George Jefferson. He had the dry cleaners, right?
Yeah,
and he moved on up and right?
Here we go.
I'm ready. I'm like, okay, I just need to start a business. All right, but I'm 6. I don't have a lot of skills. I don't have a bike. And what am I going to do? And I decide I could sell something. So I look around our house, and there's nothing that I think anyone would want to buy that I'm willing to part with. So I go out in the yard, and I see the gravel rocks in our driveway. And I'm like, okay, I have this. If I just color these rocks blue, because I'd found 2 blue markers inside. That was the one thing I found. They'll be special. And anyone who has one can do whatever they believe they can do. And I felt like I could give them this ability because I could do anything I believed I could do, because it had happened to me over and over again that adults would be like, you can't do that. And I'd be like, watch me. And I would go do it, whether it was really great things like become the announcer of the school play, or really dumb things like climb out a window to go play with the dog. Like, I could make it happen. So I made these rocks and I sold them at school the next day until I got in trouble because every kid wanted to buy a magic blue rock and they believed they were magic, and I believed they were magic. I still believe they're actually magic. You can do anything you believe you can do. And the rock is like a totem or an anchor, right? Yes, I have this, I can do it. And the kids all bought them and they charged their lunch. So I got sold out, so to speak, by the lunch lady because she told the first grade teacher, hey, everybody charged their lunch. They said they got these magic blue rocks. And she came up to me because she talked to the kids and they're like, oh yeah, they're so great. Look, they're awesome. Here we go. And we all charged our lunch. So whatever. And because I had priced them badly, and I'm actually telling the story badly now, it's better in the book, but I'd priced them at 25 cents each because I really liked quarters. And I thought quarters will add up to dollars really fast. And in my 6-year-old mind, things adding up to other things really fast was how people got rich. So, but lunch was 80 cents. So these kids had $1 and I charged them $0.25 for the rock, and then they all had to charge their lunch. And so the teacher comes to me and she's like, April, you can't do this. I'm going to have to call your mom. And I was like, oh my gosh. And my mom coming to school was like the worst thing that could happen because calling her had to be an emergency. She literally told me, if there is not blood, do not call.
Right.
No blood, don't call. I was like, this is going to be terrible. And so my mom comes to school. The teacher tells her what I did, tells her the poor thing and all of that. And my mom has this conversation with me, and it was this visceral, life-changing moment because here is the strongest person I've ever met, who never cries, who's never sad, who is, I can tell, ashamed, even though as she's telling me, there's nothing shameful about being poor. I can tell she's ashamed. I can tell that she hates that I'm experiencing this. But then she says, you don't have to have this. Your life is going to be different. You can do whatever you want to do. You are different. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to make money until money does not matter because I'm never going to feel bad about this. And I'm not going to focus on things that make you feel bad. And what I noticed was when she said I could do anything, Like she was happy again and her demeanor was different. And I was like, that's what I'm going to focus on. That is when I chose to only focus on the what.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it at the time, right? But it's this visceral thing. And if you guys can think back to those kinds of moments that you have when you're a kid, because you can also have them when you're like, I will never eat fish. And then all of a sudden, like even as an adult, you're like, I just don't like fish. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But it was this moment that shaped my life. And what is so cool is that I did all those things, not because I'm smarter than everybody else. I didn't work harder. I have nothing that other people don't have. No connections, no whatever, none of it. But I believed that strongly. And when you can believe in yourself at that level, nothing is out of your reach.
Man, you know what that story reminds me of? Eric. Remember Eric had a moment, and this is not the story specific, it's like clairvoyance specific, that at a super early age, he was like, this is it.
Yeah, 3rd grade or whatever I think it was.
Yeah, I forget exactly the timeline, but like,
I love it.
man, that's such a gift at 6 to say like, I got it.
Special gift at any point of your life.
Yeah,
the fact that you picked it up at 6 is Mensa status.
That is true, though. It's a gift whenever it happens because we have these moments all the time. And sometimes, or not all the time, but often, more often than people realize. And I think a lot of times people will try and logic their way out of it because so often you know deep in your gut what you're supposed to be doing or what is meant for you. But then life or other people or what you logically think is the right thing has told you, no, ignore that.
Yeah.
And I say, go with it.
Well, we had call it a month ago, an episode that it was just Stewart and I that was the things we wish we knew, so when we were younger.
Oh, what a cool episode.
And my number one, I don't know if it was number one thing, but it was up there, was dream bigger. So I didn't do that. What I did when I was a child was, once I was old enough to work, like bagging groceries, facing shelves, swinging a hammer, all those things, I was going to be the best at it. And just because I wanted to be the best at it. Like I got pride from seeing the shelves faced at the grocery store, everything looking perfect, doing it under the time allotted. And I didn't understand what that could turn into later. And so we talked about it. Like, I wish I could go back and be like, if you do this, this is what it can become and drive you that much further. Because like Stewart said, it's just the mindset as a child like that, to dream big and to not let adversity stop you. It's incredible.
So I want to reframe that for you just a little bit. I love that, but let's think about it this way. What if, because you did it the way you did it, instead of dreaming big from the very beginning, you now at this point in time, at this point in your life, have such a unique and amazing set of skills that you would not have taken the time to have created and experienced had you dreamed big from the very beginning, that put you in the perfect place at the perfect time to do the perfect thing.
It's a great perspective.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I believe in that. I believe that, my career has been so weird. I went into the military and was a news anchor, and then I was in the corporate world in finance and software, and only then started my company. And I think, oh man, I could have done this at 20 and then what? Well, then you wouldn't have all the expertise and the different things that you've learned that make you so able to help others.
Right.
So I can't be sad about that. I trust it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So I want to tell more story or hear more story, right? So you have this moment, is that in kindergarten? First grade. First grade. How does that weave through like the balance of your educational career to get you here? Like, what about that moment tips the ball, changes the trajectory, and gets you to where you are? And I guess really the deeper question is, what are the milestones along the way that sort of reinforce this idea that you have at 6, that you can do anything?
So basically, it's that thought that, well, I'm only going to focus on the thing that feels good. I'm only going to focus on what I know I can do. And what was interesting is it really didn't matter what other people said about it not being possible. In my head, I'd be like, well, for you, I'm different. And it was just this inner monologue. And then I really believe this. I believe mindset is so important to our success. I would say that mindset is more important than any other singular thing. And I believe that when your mindset is working for you, so mine was, I'm going to have money till money doesn't matter. right? Which that happens a lot faster than you think it'll happen, right? But you're open to those opportunities. You're open to all these different ways. I sold Avon when I was 12 years old, which you probably couldn't get away with right now, but you could back then.
Mm-hmm.
And, I did all kinds of different jobs, and I had an amazing woman, Sue Harper, who came into my life and mentored me. And I believe your mindset, being in the right place, opens your eyes to these opportunities. And there's science behind this, right? It's called the Bader-Meinhof principle. So if you've ever bought a car, right? And all of a sudden, after you buy this car, there are hundreds of them on the road.
Yeah.
Did everyone else go and get one too? I thought, what in the world?
Yeah.
Okay, so what that is your subconscious mind. And the way that it works is when you bought this car, you told your subconscious mind, which, by the way, does about 82% of the work. It's like the computer part of your laptop, right? The actual processor. You've said this is important. So now it's like, look, here's one and here's one and here's one and here's one. And they were there, but it wasn't pointed out to you. So when you have a mindset of, I am going to do this, and you believe that at a visceral level, then your subconscious mind is going, here's an opportunity and here's an opportunity and here's an opportunity. And oh, by the way, people don't talk about this, but I think it's not fair if you don't. You want to focus on bad things? Guess what? Your subconscious mind, I got you. Here's a bad thing. Here's a bad thing. Here's a bad thing.
Yeah, we've talked about that on here before. I've been in, let's just say, a phase of my life where I was surrounding myself with people we'd go lunch on Friday and just complain.
Ooh.
I know. And it was fun at first, right? It tastes
Really?
Like, oh, yeah, at first you're like, oh, yeah, this sucks.
Fun, like picking a sore in your mouth fun?
No.
I mean, like.
No, it's just like misery loves company fun, right?
Okay.
Like, oh, this is miserable. And like, yeah, this sucks too. And then after a few weeks, I'm like, this is awful. And I stop going, right?
Good for you.
Because exactly what you're saying is like subconscious spins up and all of a sudden, well, I was unhappy about that. And now everything is awful because you start picking it all up. So the inverse of that I can testify is 1,000% true. The inverse is true for sure.
But the great thing is we have control of that,
Mm-hmm.
which, wow, what an amazing power. And some people, when you tell them this, they're like, this is amazing. And then other people are like, I don't like that. That sucks. Because then you have a responsibility. Okay, so if everything about your life is making you unhappy, who should you look at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling Stewart yesterday, because this is my barometer if my goals are big enough. Like, if somebody doesn't say, what is wrong with you? Like, when I share a goal, then I'm not there yet. Like, it's not big enough yet. And so when people do say that, like the 100-mile challenge, the regulars at the gym, I'm usually downstairs lifting with them. Now I'm upstairs every day doing cardio. Like, what's going on? And tell them about the 100 miles. Like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, all right, I'm where I need to be right now.
Oh, I love it. I like that. That's a good litmus test. For me, it's, am I afraid to say it out loud?
Ooh. Well, because are you wired? Once you say it out loud, there's no turning back.
It's happening. Like, people know.
Yeah,
you, dog.
That is.
I actually jumbled into this thought. I used to write things on my windows at the office, like just things that popped in my mind, quotes and stuff like that. And the one that used to be I've since erased them because I needed the window space for something else. But one of them,
I love that. That's an important part of the story for you.
Yeah,
I love
well,
that,
because
so that I know they're not there.
Yeah, they're not there anymore. The windows they're blank now because I used to have I wrote a timeline up there for a minute. and I had some sticky notes, so I need to erase all the inspirational stuff.
I love it.
But it said if people aren't laughing at your goals are too small.
Yeah.
That used to be written up there, and I thought about it so much that I ended up at the end of the year we do like these partner reviews, and you write down all the cool things you've done, and you send them to blah blah blah, and so it's part of like your review process of the firm. I put it in there, and the chairman of the firm calls me and says, I've never quoted from someone's partner review, but I was in a meeting with a client this week and I actually used that quote that you put in your partner review. And I was like, yes.
So good.
Got him. Yes. We're all doing this now.
So good.
Anyway, same. Just, I needed to tell a story, I guess. I need to fill airspace and talk for a second.
I feel like it was awesome. Although I love the tangent about, but they're not there anymore.
They're
in
not
case
there. Yeah.
people want to now tour your office. Like, can I be inspired?
Yeah. You could stop by at any time and there'll be no quotes on the window. That's what you can expect in my Anywho.
Okay. So part of the journey and you putting this mindset to practice was the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going into this because you want to be involved in the production journalism side of things, and you find this very low probability opportunity with journalism within the Air Force. But in order to get there, you have to sign up for the Air Force without any guarantee of getting that position.
Mm-hmm.
So teeing that experience up for you, what did that look like and how did it turn out?
So let's be clear. The whole reason April ended up at the Air Force recruiting office is because she failed at getting into college with a scholarship. Like she made a series of choices, which I highlight in the book, to turn down scholarships to schools that she thought, no, I can do better than this, to not ask how much the scholarship was at her dream college, like all of these just epically dumb things, which that's life,
Yep.
right? And then I go into the Air Force and yes, so there was like a 1% of the Air Force gets to broadcast and you have to audition and you have to go through that process. And again, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going in and I want you to guarantee that if I don't do this, I can leave. And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, I just feel like there might be a contract where I can say this or bust. And he was like, yes, there is. Who told you that? But it was a guess. But I was just like, if I don't, but for me, I'd already told everyone I was going in the Air Force. So like I wanted the out because it felt good, but I wasn't going to use it. I was going either way. And I actually failed my first broadcasting audition. And that was another one of those moments where I was like, wait a minute, I can do everything I thought I could do. And I can't do this. Like, is my whole paradigm I've based my life on wrong? Like, what in the world am I supposed to do? And I was in this, I don't know, kind of like back and forth, low place, for lack of a better way to say it, where I didn't know what the rest of my life was going to be. Because, when you're that age, right? You're 18, 19 years old. It feels like every decision is monumental and that it shapes your entire life. So you feel like everything is a fork in the road, which me personally, I think it's a little more like a cruise ship. It's like 10 degrees to the left, 10 degrees to the right. You can still get to the Bahamas. It's not a big deal. You didn't like take the wrong thing at Albuquerque like Bugs Bunny. But that's how it feels. So I literally was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to get some weird job in the Air Force. I have to like be a cook and I don't want to do that. And it was only because I was offered the opportunity, which it seems like this would not be something you'd want to do. But to me, it was. Someone else decided they wanted to go in and become a broadcaster. And even though it had crushed me that I had failed this audition, my recruiter was like, April, do you want to help this guy? He wants to do it. And you're the only person who's ever done an audition. And I was like, yeah, I'll help him. Which to some people, they'd be like, that was kind of salt in the wound. But I was like, well, somebody should go. Sheesh. So I'm working with this kid and I'm helping him. And he's super confident about the audition, has no problem with it, has radio experience from high school and stuff like this. And I get him through it. And he tells me twice, once in the beginning and then once when he found out that he got in, right? He's like, April, what they said about your voice doesn't make sense. Because they said it was nasal, it had no resonance, blah, blah, blah. I didn't understand. All I heard was failed. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I really think that you should try again. And so long story short, I got with some people. I had them evaluate the tape, people who were actually in broadcasting. And they were like, and you guys know this now because you're podcasting. They're like, dear God, what did you record this on? And what kind of room were you in? And so it was
in a Bucky's bathroom.
Basically. I mean, very close. An empty office in a recruiter on a cassette recorder. Yes, exactly. And so it was, right? It was the acoustics. So when I did it again, I made it and I got in. And it was such an awesome moment because it was the act of helping someone else that led me to accomplish my dream. And had I not helped him, I was too devastated by the failure to even consider trying again. I didn't even ask if you could.
I love that story more than you can imagine that. I love that story.
Thank you.
Because it is like, it's easy to think about helping other people like when everything's going well. Like, oh, I'll help you do that. And I'll help you do that. But that story is different because that story is helping someone when it sort of was just directly in contravention of what you were working on. Like, theoretically, that person gets the job you want and you don't get it because you helped them, right? So there's like that, this is kind of counterintuitive to humanity. And just like helping out of like, there's nothing in it for me and I'm not in a great space about this anyway, but that person needs help and I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And then poof.
I had this fundamental belief from very young. And I think my mom probably said this. I think some of my family, because again, we grew up super poor, but they always said, you always have enough to help. Right. So it was you will never do without because you helped someone else. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe you never lose by helping someone else. There's enough, whatever it is, money, opportunity, relationships. I don't care what it is. You're not going to do without because you helped someone else.
Right. That's so powerful. I hope that's a moment where, like, if people are like, man, they've been talking about giving a lot, it's not resonating. Like, if you need a why, like it transformed your life, like in a moment of giving that you wouldn't understand at the time because you were just naturally giving. I think that's super important.
I'm gonna double back to somebody. You mentioned Sue Harper earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about Sue.
Oh, gosh, Sue is amazing. So Sue is my lifelong mentor and friend. And candidly, she's the reason the generosity culture exists. Because when I was 9 years old, she was the head of human resources at the factory where my mother worked. And my really big meeting with her was because she came to our home to tell me my mother was going to rehab. And this was this awful day and could have been just one of my worst memories of childhood. But this woman who didn't have to came into our home because she knew that my mom had a little girl. And she wanted to explain this in a way that helped me experience it differently. And so she explained what my mom was doing. She explained what was happening. But she also said, and this is so important to me with children to this day, I always tell them what I see in them because she had no idea what her saying this did for me. For her, I joke it was a Tuesday, right? And for me, it was the Tuesday that changed my life. And she said to me, she was like, April, you're really special. You're really smart. You can do amazing things. And I want to be your friend. And what was so big about that is, okay, this woman is the head of a division of a company. She is regal and beautiful and well-dressed and wealthier and smarter and more successful than any adult I had met until that point in my life. And she saw in me what I believed was in there, but that either people around me were saying was not true, or people around me didn't have lives I wanted to have. So them saying I could do it didn't have the same kind of weight.
Mm-hmm.
And she changed my life. And she did that. She stayed in my life. She was a mentor. She was a friend. To this day, I talk to her every other week because she changed my life. Now, what is interesting is she would tell you, I actually have a video with her where I asked her this question at this age, finally. Why me? Why did you pick me? Right? Because this was so monumental. And she said, well, I made that offer to a lot of people. You took me up on it. Because it was who she was. She saw greatness everywhere. And she cultivated it in me. And I have the life I have today because she cared and she poured into me.
Mm-hmm.
So everything about the generosity culture is based on her.
Have you told her that?
Oh, yeah. She cried. She's like, you're giving me too much credit. And I'm like, you're not giving yourself enough.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot in that story that I won't just belabor and pick out, but there's some really cool, like, you know this, but like there's some really cool moments in there about Sue and helping and leaning in and identifying things in children and speaking into children. And like, there's a lot of stuff in that 2 minutes of airtime right there.
Yeah. And it's not just lip service to listeners or because April's sitting in this seat with us in the studio that we recommend you picking up this book because those stories are in there. And I'm the Audible guy. So I got lost in your book listening to you, and you're teeing it up just like you did in the book. And I got lost in those stories, and it helped me get away from the suffering of running and just absorb that and just profound wisdom in it. And we shared, actually, you signed some copies and we shared it with listeners. We gave away 5 copies, I think. And the response was incredible for the people that picked up and read it. So if you haven't, go get this book because it is action packed with so much wisdom, and it will inspire you to be better and do better and help people.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to share something with you guys exclusively that no one else knows yet about the book. Ta-da! You guys didn't even know this. Okay, so generosity culture. One of the things that I started is on my birthday, instead of what do I get for my birthday, it's what do I give for my birthday. So my birthday is June 25th. And for anyone who's like, oh, I don't feel like I can pick up the book because of a budget thing, a cost thing, I am going to be offering the Kindle version of my book free all day on my birthday. Yeah, so it'll be the 25th. They'll have time, right? If they want to get it on Audible, they can, and the Audible copy is not expensive. Or if they want the actual in-hand book, they can. But if you're good with the Kindle, I'm going to be giving that out all day on my birthday.
Yeah, so today is, recording-wise, today's the 14th, so that's going to be next, not this coming Friday, but next Friday. Zoom that up on your iPad, Kindle app, or whatever. That's awesome.
And if you want the paper version, I'll get it for you. Just reach out.
There you go.
We got you. When this is recorded, we got you. Just reach out. Just like she said, seize those opportunities. If you don't have the financial means and you want to learn something, we got you.
There you go.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I love that.
All right, so I want to not kind of pivot out of that, and I like to go back in stories, I think.
Okay.
But before we hit record, we were talking about home is Tennessee, like home. And you talked about growing up in a little tiny town.
Yes.
Tell me about that little tiny town.
It's called Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, which means muddy flower. And anytime I told people, they thought I was kidding. You're from where? What's it called? And it's 15 minutes north of Chattanooga. So if you've heard of Chattanooga, this is a real city. It exists, but it's very tiny, and it's called Soddy Daisy.
What's it like living there? When's the last time you went by there?
Well, so I still have family that live close to it. It's just, it's grown a lot. It's a lot different. It today is not what it was when I grew up. But when I grew up there, it was a lot of poverty. It was a lot of people who grew up and mimicked the life that happened before them. People didn't leave.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that I wanted to leave made me weird. And the fact that, I didn't want to do like the get married right away, have a child in high school. And I'm not being ugly, but that's what happened. Sure. So it was just a different life and a different way of being. And the thing that showed that to me the most was going into the service, going into the military and having this broadened worldview. And especially when it comes to things like diversity and the way that you treat people. And then when I came back, I was like, well, now I know why I didn't fit in. Y'all are backwards. And that sounds terrible. And I'm not being ugly about because not everyone is, but it was definitely more prevalent where I grew up, where people they weren't exposed to other things. And it's why, for children, like reading and exposure and meeting as many people as possible and experiences over video games or clothes or whatever, I think are so important.
I grew up in a little tiny town in Southeast Texas close to Beaumont, called Sour Lake. And the thing was nobody ever leaves Sour Lake. Right. So that's why I was curious,
right?
Similar or different, or what's like little
and
tiny
it's
town
so
stuff.
Interesting. It's like, well, if it was somewhere incredibly amazing, I would get it. But people would talk about how they didn't like it. I'm like, then why don't they leave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for flying the nest. I think it's important for somebody's growth. I mean, just going through it personally, coming from Chicago, coming out here 11 years ago, not knowing a soul.
Did they call you a Yankee?
Oh, yeah. They still do.
The only thing they call him? Currently.
I must have sounded like Italian mafia with the pinky ring when I moved here. Like, hey, you guys, you want to go to this? And it's like a room full of women. They're like, did you just call us guys? Like, because y'all wasn't in my deal.
And up north, everybody's guys.
Everybody, hey, guys, let's go do this.
Totally.
And you would see like eye twitches out here in Texas, like, get this Yankee out of my office right now.
I had a law school professor who would say, you guys, and then he would say, I mean that in the gender neutral Midwestern sense of the word.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So he was PC before PC was a thing.
Yeah.
Trendsetter, that guy.
Professor Sin. Shout out Professor Sin.
Yeah. And I won't go into specifics about why it's important. I don't want to shed any negatives or anything, but just flying the nest and for just seeing what you're made of.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you made of? What are you going to unlock that you didn't know was there because you had to put it to the test? You had to if you're an introvert, you had to go meet people because you don't know anybody. Like all these different things that you learn when you fly that nest, that humbles you, that excites you, that rewards you, all that sort of stuff.
What type of music do you listen to?
I listen to all types of music.
There's a Cross Canadian Ragweed song. You know it? You're always
what?
Cross Canadian Ragweed?
Country.
Oh, yeah, she's from Tennessee.
I thought that was the genre of music. I was like,
it's like bluegrass, but it's a little. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a mix between folk, Americana.
Is that a spice I put on my chicken?
It's called "You're Always 17" in your hometown.
Yes.
That's the idea that I always think about flying the nest, right?
Well, and also, so for me, Saudi Daisy wasn't the place for me, right? But there are people who love it and who saw the great things about it. And I don't want to take any of that away. But you also, again, when I'm trying to make a point, I need to hit this. So you also, though, find out how amazing places are by leaving and going back.
Mhm.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Right? Because you can't fully appreciate what there are as far as all of the amazing things that you take for granted because it was always yours.
The bulk of our conversation is dream it, do it. Tell us about something that's like one of the like big roadblocks.
So how big does the roadblock have to be? Because the thing is, you can always go around it, over it, under it. And it's just, how long does it take you to realize that? Because every roadblock is like that. Because for me, the not going to college one, the fact that I'm one of those people that when I say I'm going to do something, it happens, and it happens really quickly. So the fact that for 3 or 4 months, I just twiddled my thumbs, that was huge. That was no forward momentum, having a pity party every other day, just what am I going to do with my life? Is this all there is? And granted, over dramatized because I was an 18-year-old girl, right? And we can over dramatize, but nothing has ever stopped me, paused me, but never stopped me. I don't think I have stop in me. Maybe when I die.
I love that. Kevin's eyes just exploded out of the back of his head.
Sorry, I'm going to be off air for a few minutes. I got to write some notes down here. I have realizations now. Call the obstacle a season, right? So you will get through it. There's another side. And conversely, when you're at the top, that's also a season. So don't get complacent. You have both of those that learn from it, understand that it's going to be there just for a while and you have to keep plowing forward.
I so agree with that. And I think one of the most important things you can take from that season mentality when you're enjoying the great part is to enjoy it. Because I tell people a lot, I'm a recovering grinder, right? I used to be that person that was like, 16, 18-hour days. I'm going to brag about that. I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
And I would never enjoy achieving the goal. It would be, well, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Because there are seasons. That is your biggest justification in the world, to celebrate the big and little things in a big way. Because yes, there will be adversity. And then when you're in that adversity from a mindset perspective, right? Instead of, why is this happening to me? How could this be happening for me?
Write that down.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Huge perspective shift. I mean, last week construction guy, we sold a job. And it was like the last job we needed to make next year and beyond back to scaling, because we've been in survival mode the last 16 months.
Yeah.
Some of the office buildings that we did just canceled immediately when COVID hit.
Sure.
It's like, those are my biggest revenue generators. How are we going to survive this? And you start ranking people and you're looking at your divisions and you're spending so much time just trying to figure out to stay out of the brackets.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as we got the nod on this job, I went straight into reflection mode, and I almost cried in my office.
Oh, I love that.
Because the last I think Quinn's done that to me. Like, she softened me up big time, having a girl. Highly recommend it if you can do it. But
if you can do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that that's coming from a man. Have a girl.
Yes,
if you can do
I
it.
highly
100%.
recommend it.
Yeah, it's made me such a better person.
Maybe enlist someone to help you.
Yeah, you might need some help. But those 16 months were just brutal. And so you're like, to your point of like, take time to celebrate it. That was like 5 minutes in my office where I just pushed away from my desk, pushed away from the computer, just looked up, and like, I could feel it coming, and like, I'm a Goosebumps guy, so it was covered in them. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm getting teary eyed. Like, this is a pretty cool moment. And I need to make sure I'm not selfish with this moment after this fact, because I need to share with the team. Like,
I love
please reflect on this. Like, the importance of it. Yeah, we're going to be slugging it out next year and beyond, but just remember where we came from. And these are all good problems. Expansion. How are we going to grow the team? Who are we going to add to this? How are we going to balance this work? That's where we want to be.
I love it. I love that. That's a great example.
Shame on me, by the way, because I remember you texted me, and I suspect my response was like thumbs up or cool.
Hey, that's you don't, but
No,
I was living
but-
it,
Take a moment now and share, Stewart, what you wanted to have told him.
Hey, man, that's a really cool time. I'm super happy for you.
Too little, too late.
All of a sudden, I feel like I'm a couples therapy counselor.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Share your feelings.
Yeah,
Use your words.
Yeah, we have guests and then we like have old married couple vibes at the same time.
I love it.
It's such a weird dynamic.
It's an awesome bromance.
Yeah.
All right. So we talk a lot about the past. Let's talk about current. Like, what are you up to right now? Your business, what you're working on, why you're in Dallas, stuff like that. Let's talk about what's now.
Awesome. So Driven Outcomes is really a chance to help businesses accelerate. So I work with CEOs and leaders. Right now, I'm working with an amazing company this week, Tippy Toes. They're having their annual conference. They are an international franchise. And I am in about 3 days condensing probably 3 months worth of my best sales, CEO, and leadership stuff because they're all franchise owners, right, that are coming in. And really helping them from a mindset and a business perspective so that as COVID is starting to wind down, their businesses are going to be hit like crazy in the best way, right? Because people are like, yes, send my kid to dance. Let's do these amazing things. We all want to interact with folks. So how can I prepare them to accelerate their businesses in really amazing ways? And we keep calling it Tippy Toes 2.0 because it's the next iteration of the company. And you guys know Megan and Sarah, people listening heard them. They're two amazing folks and amazing leaders. And I am super excited to be able to come alongside them and support them in just becoming an even better version of the company. And that's what I do with companies around the world, actually. But at any given time, I am helping a few different companies either scale or in some cases turn around if they've fallen on hard times, and just really based on that generosity culture of pouring into their people, their clients, and their communities, become everything that they can be.
Let's take those three in a little more depth because I think there's something to those three:
Sure.
people, clients, and community. I'll just tee that up for you, but let's talk a little bit more in depth about what the generosity culture would say about pouring into your people and your community and your clients.
So basically, if you just do that, if you do nothing else in your business, you don't watch the numbers, you don't do anything in operations, and you just focused on, I'm going to pour into my people, I'm going to pour into my clients, I'm going to pour into my community, you would be successful. Now, could you be more successful if you also did the other thing? Sure. But this is the foundation. So you pour into your people, meaning you understand the folks who work for you, who they are, what they want, how you can empower them in a way that goes beyond what they do for you. Who are they? What did they want out of their career? What did they want out of their life? What's important to them? And you really invest in them. And when I say generosity culture, right, people grab their wallets like, how much is this going to cost me? It's actually going to cost you something much more valuable than money. It's time. So, but if you pour into your people, two things happen. One, you're going to find hidden gems in your organization.
Yeah.
You're going to find people who are so amazing that you didn't notice they were so amazing, and they're going to help you accelerate your company and get it to another level. It's going to be unreal. Two, you're going to model for them how to pour into your clients. And when
that's
they
good.
pour into your clients, here's what's going to happen, right? You're going to find other offerings, service offerings that you could have for your clients because they're going to tell you what's really going on that could be your true differentiator in the marketplace. You're going to find new lines of business you haven't even thought of because they want it. There's already a need for it. So let's do it. Another service, another way of doing things. And oh, by the way, all the time and money that people spend prospecting, guess what works way better than prospecting? When your clients are so enamored with you that they can't wait to tell other people about their experience with you. And then pouring into the community is just the next part of it because, okay, we talked about being excited at the very top of the episode, right? That you believe you can be excited to come into the office and do your work. And some people say yes and some people don't. Well, here's the thing. For some of us, we are living our dream and we wouldn't do anything different if we were given $1 billion overnight. We would still show up and do the exact same thing. I am one of those people. I might come in a jet, but I'm going to do it, right?
Yeah.
So, but for the people who it is a job, and there is nothing wrong with that, right? They are either getting skills to go on the way to leading their dream, or they're empowering their spouse's dream, or whatever it is. This is a job. The way that you can help give them purpose is by helping them pour into their community. Because then they're doing something that's bigger than them, that's bigger than your company, that is a contribution that can pull them out of bed and make them excited to be here.
So I'm 1,000% tracking with you, and I had like an aha moment in the middle of that. But I struggle with like execution on that third point. Like, what does that look like for a company to like pour into their community? I get how you pour into your people. I get how your people pour into. What does that third component like in execution look like?
Okay, so one company that I think did this very well is a franchise called Witch. They're like sandwiches, right?
Delicious sandwiches, I might add.
Which is awesome. So they got people together who cared about giving back to the community and charged them with coming up with a project, right? So they came up with something they call Project PB&J, which I think is just brilliant. You may have seen this when you're in there. So if you buy a peanut butter and jelly sandwich from them, they will buy 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, one for a person who is hungry and in need in the local area, and one for a person who may be in somewhere else in the world has experienced some kind of natural disaster, or they also are hungry and they will donate it there. Now, here's what's great. This was created by the people who make up the company. Mm-hmm. And notice I don't say the employees, because to every customer, they are your company. So when you allow the people who make up your company to decide how you give back, not only are they already all bought in, man, their name's on the mailbox, they're participating, they're going to help. But now you've given them a purpose that's bigger than doing the accounting, that's bigger than making that client call. So they know how they're impacting the world, right? And then there are other companies that will give 1 day off a year that they can go volunteer at nonprofits that matter to them.
That's good.
There are so many ways that you can do this that cost very little, but the return on investment, Great Places to Work did a study on this a couple of years ago, and people who know that their company gives back to the community are 13 times more likely to look forward to coming to work.
What? Run that back.
So they did a survey of 600 different companies, right, of employees. And if they knew that their company gave back to the community, doesn't matter if it's local, regional, national, global, 13 times more likely to look forward to coming to work. Now imagine what that does to productivity. If I want to be here, if I'm excited.
What's going through my head? I'm glad you asked that question, because our whole mission of making an impact and sparking action, I'm getting the latter with sparking action, because I feel like the giving we do in my company is one and done, right? Like I get pumped up for something. The last thing we did, feed my starving children in Richardson. You could go there, you pack food. It's a competition between other companies. You're trying and it's also team building, and man, you're feeding starving children around the world. You can't lose there. But then it's done. And then you get really busy. And so we have something in our strategy meetings. There's a general discussion session, and there's an ideas opportunity. So I'm bringing that next week. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Who are we going to team up with? Let's get in the idea tree and find something that, whether it's money collection, supply collection, going and serving, like what's next, and maybe we can make it a little more long term than one and done.
Well, the other thing I would suggest, and this is just off the cuff, right? But SurveyMonkey, you can do free surveys, right, within your company. Yeah. Ask your people how they'd like to. What resonates with them? Is it time? Is it money? Is it this? Is it that? Because people will come up with better ideas if they're allowed to just throw their 2 cents in. And then you can see what appeals to the most people and will therefore have the most impact.
I'm a LinkedIn scroller sometimes, I was scrolling, I forget one of these, channels. What do you call them? Accounts.
It's like a word game. Like I want to start throwing out random things, but I'm not going to.
Sounds like 2 syllables, first syllable. Anyway, like a LinkedIn account that posts like motivational things, sayings and stuff like this. When it was something about your job as a leader is not to come up with all the best ideas. It's to let your people feel empowered to have the ideas so that you can pick the best one. Something like that. That's kind of what you're saying, is like, just ask people what they want to do. Yeah. They got better ideas than you do.
Well, because they're on the ground, right? I always think about that. Like when you're talking about what do we do for our clients? Okay, well, let's talk to the people that talk to our clients, because Mr. or Mrs. CEO, you may or may not interact with your clients 1/10 of as much as the people on the ground do. So they know, and they know where the bodies are buried. And you need to know that so you can fix it.
All true. The 1 day off thing jumps out at me. That sounds like 1 day off, and then all you have to do to get your 1 day off, air quotes, just come back and tell us what you did.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right?
sure.
Or you could do it as a
Sure.
company and you could choose 5 places that you want to do it, right?
Mhm.
And you could do it in groups quarterly
Mhm.
because then you're always talking about it. People are always giving feedback. It's not a one thing, like you were saying, one and done, but people are constantly excited and they're coming back to the office. Oh, we did this here. And then another group. Oh, we did this here. So there is this constant excitement about how you're making a difference in yet another way.
Oh, it's
I
so
don't-
fulfilling too.
I'd always like my paradigm around the why was like intrinsically, right? Like, so why are you here? And I don't mean that like at the office, like why it's an intrinsic motivation. I'm here because, and then you say like some self-serving statement, like because I want to provide for my family or because I derive value, whatever. The notion that why is extra. Now I'm hit the mic. The notion that why is extrinsic is interesting. Like
I think it's both
yeah, well, yeah, right. I guess
because
that's
we're
a good.
complex, layered humans, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's motivated different ways. You guys know this if you manage people. If you can figure out what motivates people, you can do amazing things. And so for some people, just being able to pour into clients is going to be enough. For other people, the fact that you pour into them is enough. And for others, it's the community. And some people, it's all 3.
Mhm.
But by handling this as a trifecta, if you will, it is exceedingly powerful.
So construction industry, it's behind the times on some things, but those are all opportunities for us to pour into it. And
Yeah.
one of the best comments I got, it was from a friend that went and saw a client. And so no skin in the game whatsoever.
Right.
And we got this job and my buddy asked them, like, so guards down, like, why did they get that job? And their response,
Oh,
we
that's
just love
awesome.
what they stand for. And like, goosebump moment because that doesn't happen in construction that often. So, and we're partnered, we're well yoked with this client because they stand for great things as well
Mhm.
and they operate at a high level. But to get that feedback that it wasn't because we were the low number, it wasn't because we were available, but they cared what we stood for. Like, have you ever heard that in construction?
No, bro, that's a paradigm change.
First time in my career we got that feedback.
That's
and,
amazing.
And so, like, when your point of pour into your people will pour into clients, community, all 3 of those get interconnected, and then somebody sees what you stand for.
Okay, so let's take this to the next level because I
Oh,
love this.
Level up.
We
Okay.
need music. What's the next level music? Go.
I'm not singing. I'm
Oh.
just going to give you the next
Like
level
a
advice.
soundbite, like a.
Here's the thing. Find out as much as you can about that client because what you want to do is you want to model that. You want to be polarizing in a way that the people who aren't like them don't want to work with you and the people who are run towards you.
So good.
Because you can be immensely powerful and immensely financially successful serving the people you most want to serve.
You want to.
Mm-hmm.
You crave it. Like, I'm going to look out for them because they've looked out for us. That's
Well,
real
and
life.
You want the people they want to introduce you to because like attracts like.
Mm-hmm.
And what would your company feel like if your entire client base, or let's say 80% of your client base was made up of companies that thought just that way?
Unstoppable.
Absolutely.
And super exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't come to work with the like, we're working on that project and everything's a fight and every change order gets denied and we're behind and it's all our fault. You know, like it's not like that. Like work is, okay, we're all yoked together and we're pulling this in the same direction. And all of a sudden the grind is not a grind. It's fun.
Yeah.
All right. So our kind of duo to wrap up. I think I hilariously called it the Texas Two-Step last time.
Yep.
To wrap up as we talk about books.
Mm-hmm.
And the one big thing.
Okay.
So let's hit books and then we'll transition into that. And what I mean by that is like books you've read or currently reading that are or were like super influential in your life that you think, man, that was worth the read.
Okay, so first one, best book I've ever read is The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. And I know he's been a recent guest, but I will tell you that I wish I'd read that book 10 years ago. I wish I'd known that there were people like me that existed because there are, and they're called Go-Givers. And it's just an amazing, amazing book. And I love the whole series. And then before that, it was Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. And I read that right when I started my company. And it was such a gift because it's like the condensed best advice from every great successful business person. And it's a lot of people being really candid about failures and things that they didn't do well, which was such a gift for me to hear. And it's why I try and always share things I don't do well, things that scare me, because I think that is the best gift that you can give other people, is the fact that you're not alone. Everybody feels fear or intimidated or any of those things. So that book is phenomenal as well.
I had a friend, Grant Jackson, was a big Tim Ferriss fan for a while. And when you mentioned it earlier, I couldn't place it, but when you kind of give us a synopsis, I was like, oh, I have heard of that book. Grant read it some time ago. And of course, I haven't made it back to it, but familiar with that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the one big thing. I'll tee it up for you a little bit, and then you just roll with it where you want. But listeners tuning in, if you happen to flip here at the last minute and all you hear is 2 or 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes, what's the one big thing you want them to take away from our time today?
I think that there is nothing in the world that drives more success in your life, personally, professionally, all across the board, than approaching every person, every scenario, every company with the thought of, how can I help?
Yeah, that's
it.
That's it. And it goes back to how we started, which was, I said, what's your elevator pitch? And you said, my pitch is, tell me about you. Right. And we come full circle. So awesome. Let's do, if folks want to read more, listen more, find out more, website, podcast, blog, stuff like that, how do we get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So one good thing is April Shprintz. I'm the only one in the United States. So you can find me on any of the social media networks, things like that. Also on my website, drivenoutcomes.com. I have a lot of free resources, a YouTube channel where I give a lot of business advice, my podcast, Pouring Into Your Business, which also has one dedicated mindset episode each week. So basically, if you need help, just get in touch. I'd be happy to.
There you go.
Thank you so much, April. This has been awesome.
It's been so fun.
I know it.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging with us.
Love it. It's been crunk.
There it is. We need to do
wardrobe.
You know what